The narcissist does not break up with you. They discard you, and that is a different kind of death. A normal breakup ends a relationship. A discard erases the whole thing. One day, you are everything. The next, you are nothing. Blocked, replaced, rewritten. You're left holding the story, the memories, the messages, and that ache in your chest. And they are already performing the next act for someone new. That is not closure. That is psychological warfare. Because the discard isn't about leaving you. It's about destroying your reflection, making you question whether it was real or not, if you were ever real. And I know the part that hurts the most. You still want to believe that this person who broke you is capable of fixing it. But here is the holy fuck truth. You will never get closure from a narcissist because closure requires a conscience, and they don't have one. So in this episode, I'm going to teach you what the discard really is, how to stop chasing answers that do not exist, and how to give yourself the closure that will finally set you free. I'm Megan Webster, an abuse recovery coach, a trauma-informed strategist, and the woman a narcissist hopes to never meet twice. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast, where women healing from abuse learn to break the trauma bond, regulate their nervous system, and rebuild the life they were told they would never have. Here's what I need you to understand about the narcissist discard. This is not a breakup, it is a performance. Normal people end a relationship when they grow apart. A discard happens when the narcissist decides the performance is over, when they've drained you of validation, energy, admiration, and now they need a new source. They don't leave because they've fallen out of love. They leave because they've run out of supply. And to make sure you're hooked, they don't just walk away, they implode the relationship. They will rewrite the narratives and paint themselves as the victim and pretend you never existed. They ghost, they rage, they blame, they run straight into the arms of someone new, all to provoke your collapse. Because the discard isn't the end of a relationship, it's the final act of control. When you start to detach, when you start to wake up, when you start to see the mask slipping, that is when they will discard you. It's punishment for no longer being their mirror. It's the narcissist saying, you don't get to leave me, I'm leaving you first. It's a type of rejection to keep you rehooked. Because when you chase closure, when you chase explanation, when you chase the version of them that you thought was real, you hand them power back over and over and over again. I went live on TikTok to talk about my 2 experiences with narcissist discards this week. Easily one of the most painful and confusing things that I've ever gone through with a narcissist. One specifically because I never saw it coming. We were long distance, I went to visit, and when I got back, he went cold. Messages and calls were suddenly sporadic, which had never happened during the duration of our relationship. He was still also asking things of me, help for his business, but the kindness, the good mornings, the forevers, the thank yous had completely disappeared. It's very important to note that 3 months prior, we had an exchange that was uncomfortable. He wasn't paying attention to me on our nightly call, and I felt some anger building, and I didn't want to say something out of pocket, so I ended the call. When I had shared why I ended the call early, he asked what I had felt, and I said rejection. He had made this big face and said that my emotional response to that was too much. It was a big thing to say. Now, up until that point, he had been a very safe person to share how I felt. We spent an ample amount of time talking about peace and certain aspects that were really important to me in dating. The next 2 days, he barely responded to me. And at the end of the weekend, we had had a conversation where he told me he would never treat me like anyone from my past, that he just needed time to process what had happened. So I did let it go, but I also didn't receive an apology. So my gut and my body that day told me that I could no longer fully trust this person who was going to deny how I felt about things, specifically with not taking accountability for their actions. So back to the discard, which was 3 months later, almost to the day. He had stopped responding to me on the Sunday, and by the time I got to bed, I was crying given his behavior, and he finally called. When he saw that I was crying, he seemed genuinely concerned and asked if I was okay. I told him how I felt, confused by his coldness. I named some things, and he flipped out. He raised his voice at me, and he said it to me twice. I cannot do this with you. I cannot do this with you. My tears stopped in that moment because I knew exactly what was happening. His mask had finally slipped. This is who he truly was. The next day, I got this massive long text. You know in Apple when you have to click the message to open the full thing? I got this sad boy contract bullshit text about not being able to give me what I want, that his heart hurt, that he was up all night. It was manipulation at its finest. And when I called him out on that, he got defensive, attacked my character, and told me that I was only good for sex, which is why he didn't want to build a future with me. I closed the door, but he had not stopped responding. I was getting random messages daily that were trying to provoke something in me to respond to him. And I honestly just couldn't, because I was questioning everything. Like, the next couple of weeks, I wasn't sure if my reality was real at all. Like, what part of that relationship was true? What wasn't? Who is this person really? I hyperventilated. I had panic attacks. I was physically ill to my stomach. And I was beyond exhausted from overthinking. He was all up in my social media, likes, comments, views, and he still is, to be honest, which is very typical of narcissists, but he was not mourning the loss. He was trying to feed off of my reaction, because to a narcissist, grief is proof that they mattered. But I came to a realization that the discard is not an ending. It's actually their last attempt to see how we can control ourselves. But the truth is, the moment they discard you, the game changes, because now the power is back in your hands. It's painful. It makes you question everything, but you can also see your patterns, your truth for what it really is, so you can set yourself free. The discard doesn't just break your heart, it also breaks your body. Your nervous system is in shock. One minute you're high on connection, the next your body thinks it's dying. Because to the trauma-bonded brain, loss equals death. You're not crazy for checking your phone every few minutes. You are not weak for wanting to text them. You're not pathetic for stalking the new supply social media. You are detoxing from an addiction your body doesn't consent to. The narcissist wired your system for chaos. The constant push-pull, the love bomb, the withdrawal, the rage that was followed by tenderness, that was how they conditioned you. So when the discard hits, your body starts fiending for the next fix. The shaking in your hands, that is adrenaline withdrawal. The panic, that's the system searching for a dopamine hit of their attention. The numbness, your body is trying to protect you from emotional overload. A client recently told me she kept reaching up for her phone like it was going to do something. She had gone no contact for like 3 or 4 weeks, I think, and woke up one morning to a message that just said, "Hey." That was it. That's all it took. Her heart dropped, her breath shortened, her entire body went into fight or flight. She wasn't even happy to hear from him. She just felt triggered. And that's the trauma bond, the brain confusing chaos with safety, where your nervous system work actually comes in, because until you start to regulate, your body is going to mistake withdrawal for love. I am going to say something that's going to sound harsh and it's going to hurt, but I promise you it's going to save you years of pain. You are never going to get closure from a narcissist, discard or not. Closure requires truth, accountability, empathy, and narcissists have none of those things. You're waiting on an apology from someone who can't even admit that they did it. You're waiting for remorse from someone who only regrets losing control. You're waiting for explanation from someone whose entire existence is built on denial. The closure you want, the moment where they admit everything, where they validate your pain, where they apologize, that is never coming. Because to give you closure would mean they lose power. So you have 2 choices. Stay in the loop waiting for someone who broke you to heal you, or you close the door yourself. You stop chasing why, you stop seeking validation, you stop needing them to agree that it was abuse for it to count as abuse. You stop calling it closure, because closure implies they hold the ending. They don't. You do. I had a client share with me that she just wanted him to admit it. She spent months documenting, saving screenshots, writing letters she would never send, waiting for the day that would never come. On a call one night, she had shared with me that he had posted a quote about forgiveness on his Instagram. She said, like, what, he's healing now? I told her the truth. He is not healing. He is rebranding. You heal by facing the truth. Narcissists move on by performing it. I told her that she didn't need him to validate what happened, that she lived it. So we ended up creating a closure ritual for herself. She wrote down every single lie that he told her, every apology that meant nothing, every time that she abandoned herself to keep him calm, and then she lit the page on fire. That is closure. That's self-liberation. Healing after a narcissist discard is not linear, it is cyclical. Grief comes in waves. You will feel fine, then a smell, a song, a time of day, and boom, you are right back in it. And I want to remind you that is not regression. That's a grief window opening. A grief window is your nervous system's way of saying, we're ready to process this layer now. And when it opens up, it hurts like hell. You will want to close it with distraction, control, contact. Don't. Sit in it. Let it move through you. You cry, but you stay conscious. You shake, but you breathe. You feel the ache, but you don't label it as weakness. You recognize it as release. Each time you survive one of these windows without reaching back out, your brain is starting to rewire itself. That silence is not danger. That peace does not mean abandonment. And it starts to learn that closure comes from stillness, not from chaos. This is the type of work that we do inside of the RRR membership. We rebuild safety inside of your body so you can stop mistaking intensity for intimacy. You will know how to anchor in the middle of an emotional withdrawal, how to soothe your system without contact, and how to rebuild a life that doesn't depend on being seen by someone who cannot see you. Because that's what healing really is. It is not the absence of pain, but the presence of self. The day you decide to stop waiting for closure is the day you will actually start healing. Freedom doesn't come when they apologize. It starts when you stop explaining. You don't need them for anything, not an apology, an explanation, acknowledgement. All you really need is your peace and your dignity and your fucking life back. One of my clients just shared that she had gotten no contact with her ex, and after 6 months of silence, finally a text message, but she didn't flinch this time. That is the freedom that you get to have when your body stops reacting like it's under attack. The moment you realize you're no longer addicted and you're actually free, you don't need closure from the person who broke you. You need connection to the version of you who's still waiting for permission to heal. This is not a time for you to wait. This is a part where you rebuild, where you get to come home to yourself, where the story ends and the life you were meant to live actually begins. If this episode cracks something open in you good, that means you are waking up. Share this with another woman who needs it. Please follow so you don't miss the next one. Send me a DM on Instagram to tell me what landed the hardest for you. And when you are ready to go deeper, join us inside of the Reinvent, Rebuild, and Redeem membership, where women leaving or healing from abuse learn how to break trauma bonds, regulate their nervous system, rebuild their self-worth, and rise into a life that is absolute pure freedom. This is the Narcissist Worst Nightmare podcast, and remember, your healing starts when you live in your truth, unattached to anyone or anything else.